right, so today we're going to be talking about spirit and animal guides. This presentation is part of our Moonpath CUUPs year and a day presentation. You can see all of our Moonpath CUUPs year and a day presentations on our website, moonpathcups.org. My name is Birch V. Baum, and I'm going to be presenting today on this topic that I happen to love very, very much. So we're going to just be covering, oops, too fast there, a few things today. We'll be talking about familiars, animal messengers, the roles of spirit guides, types of spirit guides and messengers you may encounter, ways in which we can discover and connect with our spirit guides and messengers. And finally, we're going to close with a meditation designed to facilitate us in meeting with those guides and helpers who we may need to see now. So, first of all, familiars. A witch's black cat is one of the most recognizable and famous examples of a familiar in all of pop culture, but they can be really any animal, any type of animal, any color of animal. Cats, however, being sleek, regal, and utterly independent, they may be as likely to knock things off your altar as they are to aid you in your spell. But when they're treated as the royal animals that they are, they will always be at your side through thick and thin. So a familiar is almost always a living animal present in our physical world. Some people will have a spirit animal whom they refer to as a familiar and who acts in that role. But most of the time, when someone talks about a familiar, they're talking about an animal in their daily life. Very often this is a pet, but not all pets are familiars. Some choose to be, some do not. The choice to become a familiar or not is up to the animal. Some pets will decide they'd rather remain as pets. Others will decide that they are superior to you in all things magical, and they'll only take an interest when it suits them. And some will embrace the role and work with you very closely. So it's important that you never force the issue on any creature. If they choose to work with you, then you'll be able to work with them, share strength, share magic, learn from each other. And it's something to honor as a gift from a trusted and beloved friend, not a requirement from a servant. Because again, they all have a will of their own. Now, like I said, many familiars are people's pets. That's because your pets are pretty much part of your family. They're always there, they're always with you. And so it's, natural that your familiar and your pet could be the same animal. But sometimes it might not be your pet. It might be some other animal who you notice is often around when you're doing spells or rituals. And so if you do notice a particular animal is often present, that's a sign that they may be thinking of becoming your familiar. Right. Now, messengers. The natural world speaks to us in many ways, including as messengers from the spirit realm. Pictured here is a raven. Ravens are often used as watchers and messengers throughout the Northern European traditions from Ireland to Norway. In the Norse tradition, Odin's two ravens, Hugin and Munin, fly around the world every day and return at night to tell him of all they have seen and all that has happened on Midgard. As a result of this, many Norse pagans describe seeing ravens appear unexpectedly when they are calling to Odin for aid or help with a particular question. So messengers are a type of spirit guide who may appear very randomly or for very short periods of time or for a particular reason. Which is one reason why animals as messengers come up in a lot of myths and stories about the gods. Ravens also are seen as messengers in China, where they're thought to cause bad weather in forests as a warning to local people that the gods were passing by. And in the Celtic tradition, the gods and goddesses themselves often took the form of a battle raven or crow in times of war. And even to this day, they will frequently use ravens and crows as messengers to their followers to herald times of danger, personal upheaval, and rapid change. Obviously, not every single bird or animal you ever see is going to be a messenger from the gods. Sometimes a crow is just a crow. But it's important to remember that every bird or animal that you see is part of a larger physical and spiritual world, just as we are. So even if there's no spiritual component, remaining aware of what messengers the animal kingdom might be dropping to you is very important. Down here in Florida, I'm sure we've all noticed the phenomenon. It's a few days before a hurricane comes. You can taste that difference in the air, and there's not a single bird to be seen. That's because the birds know when the hurricane comes, you fly inland towards the glades. I work close to the Everglades, so I've noticed that suddenly there are tons of birds everywhere because all the coastal birds have headed inland to sunrise. So animals definitely have an instinct for when storms are approaching, and learning to read the language of their actions can help you gain a better grasp of what's going on in the natural world. So if you ever do get the impression, though, that there's something more to the animal that you are seeing, you definitely want to take some time to meditate or use some divination practices to see what it is that they're trying to tell you. You know, this is the best way to know, is the crow a crow, or is the crow trying to tell me something? Best way to find out, open yourself up intuitively, divination, meditation, whatever feels most natural and helpful to you, to see what sort of things you might need to be aware of. We'll be covering a little bit more on direct communication a little bit later on in this presentation. Okay, all right. Next are PowerPoint issues. All right, spirit animal and primary spirit guides. A lot of times when people talk about a spirit or an animal guide, what they're referring to is one like this. And this is what we're going to be talking a lot about more in next week's presentation on plant and animal totems. But I want to introduce the topic at this point. So the concept of a spirit guide, whether animal, plant, or any other form, is deeply shamanic in nature. Shamanic traditions have been around for hundreds of thousands of years, from the earliest hominids to the modern day, which is one reason why animal spirit guides will appear in almost every single culture on Earth, and yet each culture will have their own viewpoints, beliefs, vocabulary, methods, and understanding of what those animals and what their appearance may mean. Shamanism at its core seeks to cross from one world to another, gaining wisdom, knowledge, experience, and strength from those connections. So, since shamanic traditions are found worldwide, and the shaman or other person in this tradition is looking to cross from one world to the next, that is one role of this type of primary guide, is that literal spirit guide who guides someone from one world to another. But it also can have other meanings and implications in other cultural traditions as well. Some spirit guides who work with a person over the course of their lifetime may be a messenger, a teacher, a companion, and a guardian by turns, depending on how that person, what that person needs at that point in their life. Now, again, this is also what people often mean when they talk about a spirit animal. It's not what comes up on your Facebook quiz when you say, "What is my spirit animal? Click here." It's it's the being who, you know, is always there for you. Everyone thinks, "Ooh, wolf, bear, eagle." But it could be any animal. It could be any plant. It could be anything. And discovering and finding out what it is a very meaningful part of a lot of people's magical journeys and spiritual journeys. I personally don't use the word spirit animal. I understand that that belongs to very specific traditions. Being a Germanic pagan, I refer to mine as the Filja, which is a animal of the soul, basically is what that means. More generically, you might hear them called power animals. A lot of Native American traditions, they'll refer to as the totem or the totemic animal. But you'll find words and phrases for this type of spirit guide in multiple examples around the world. So for now, like I said, I'm going to cover this in a lot more depth next week. There's a lot to talk about here, but I just want you all to be aware of it for now. And then next week, or on the 8th, my next class, we'll continue talking about this subject. Spirit guide, task-oriented. Not every spirit guide who comes to you is going to necessarily be one who works with you consistently and steadily throughout your entire life. Some will come and go at different points in our lives when we have need of them. Others will come in for a short period of time, and then when we learn what it is that they had to teach us, they'll move on to someone else. And there's nothing wrong with this. As I said before, helping us is a choice that our spirit guides make. And it's really no different than having a particular friend that you don't see very often, but you always, cherish to do the times when you do see each other, even if it's been 4, 5, 6 years since you last met. And then there's also some people who come into our lives, we spend time with them, and then we part ways, we never see each other again. And so there's equivalents in the spirit world as well with the relationships that we build there. Very often, you may see us manifesting as a spirit who is working to help with us, maybe guiding us through a particular obstacle in our life. Here I've chosen a horse picture. The horse guide often acts as a catalyst for movement, grace, speed, strength, and transportation. To continue using Odin as an example, he would have his ravens, Hugin and Munin, working as his messengers. Jerry and Freki would be his wolves, his companions, and Sleipnir, his 8-legged horse, is the steed who carries him across the 9 realms. Odin is an ancient shamanic god, and so the comparison is apt. If you seek to cross often between the worlds, riding the hedges which separate them, it may be that you will find a horse guide who will come to you and help you cross from one side to the other. And that will be the time when you most often see and work with that particular horse. And in many traditions, It's also said that we are here on earth because there are lessons that our souls need to be taught. A spirit guide may come to us when our life lessons are being served to us in the real world, and through dreams and visions and intuition, they'll offer us a glimpse of a better way to go about doing things so that we can learn and process things during our time on earth. It is usually wise to take them up on that offer, and even if they come and go, the lessons they impart can influence and shape you for the better throughout the rest of your lives. But not every spirit guide who comes to you for particular reasons is going to come for anything this serious. There are some that I work with who simply seem to enjoy certain activities that I do, and they'll join in just to have fun, share in the magic. We have a good time together, and then they part to their realm, and I keep going on my way. You may often see this if you see a particular spirit animal working with you while you're drumming. Maybe as you're drumming, you see that there's always a little creature just hanging around at the corner of your eye, and they just want to hang out and drum with you. Or if you're hiking through the woods or swimming in the ocean, even if you rarely see them anywhere else, they're good friends to have. And maybe sometimes while you're drumming or hiking or swimming, there's a particular problem in your life that you're trying to resolve and trying to work out. They're good people to talk to in this case. You know, see if they can help you figure out the best way to go, because they'll have a certain perspective that you will lack, and the fact that they have a certain amount of objectivity might give them some insights to things that you are overlooking. And there are, like I said, similar to the life lessons, there are things we need to learn, things we need to do in this life. Sometimes spirits will come to us for that period of a time. They tutor us in that skill, and then they bid us farewell. So, the different types of spirit guides that you may find, whether it is as a messenger, a power animal, a teacher, a lifelong soul companion, or any other form, each animal's spirit has its own characteristics, meanings, and goals. If you find yourself dreaming of an animal over and over again, or you keep thinking you see one out of the corner of your eye, then that is a sign that there is something about that animal that you need to know. Maybe it's a dragon, maybe it's a wolf, horse, dragonfly, bear, spider. I know Alba loves the spiders, me, not so much. I won't try and get into the full range of animal guides and their symbolic meanings, however, because, like I said, each animal has probably enough meanings and symbolism across the world and across the cultures to take up an entire lesson on their own. So instead, if you are noticing a particular animal, follow your heart, follow your intuition, reach out to them, talk to them, see what they want, see what they have to offer you. Do your research. The book Animal Speaks is a great resource for all kinds of information on spirit animals. So as you learn about them, that can help you see what you might need to know. As you talk to them, they can tell you why they're coming to you, and that will help you a lot more than me talking about this for the next 7 hours. So the animal who approaches you might not always be the one that you expect, but whoever they are the one that you need. Other types of spirit guides that you might encounter. trees and plants. So far, I've mostly been referring to animals, but spirit guides can come in all shapes, forms, and species. So everything I've said about animals can also apply to these other spirit guides. But each different type will also have some unique gifts and tools to offer us. As you can guess, my power plant is a birch tree. The birch is intrinsic to my identity as a person, just as the wolf spirit is. And so between the wolf and between the tree, that gives me insight into myself, my magic, and how I relate to the world. And so that's, again, more of what I'm going to be covering next week. But let's talk about trees specifically and plants more generally. Because of the differences in their bodies, they don't experience time or the senses the same way that humans or animals do. A lot of times, the trees we meet are a whole lot older than we are. And even when they're young trees or plants, their perception and awareness of time is on a completely different level than ours. Trees move a lot slower. They live a whole lot longer than we do. But a flower lives a much shorter and quicker life. So they can give us a lot of perspective on time, understanding the change of seasons, the meaning of a given day, the meaning across a century. And so if you find that you are being called to a particular kind of tree or flower, that might be something that you're needing to work on. Or it might be a characteristic of the tree or flower or plant itself, that they have some characteristic, magically speaking, that they wish to share with you. Again, best way to find out, just talk to them. Hug a tree, tell it hello, and carry on a conversation. And as above, so below. It's the very essence of being a tree. Because when you think about how a tree or any other plant works, the roots are below. The leaves and the branches are above. And the trunk is the equivalent to us right here on the surface of the earth. So if you ever want to learn about the way that the three of them interact with each other, it's another good thing you can learn from a tree. But because they're a different type of creature than an animal or a human, you really have to slow down and match their pace in order to understand them, because their perception of the world is very different from ours. So you have to slow down enough that you can translate and understand their messages. So that is working with a tree or plant spirit guide. Next, ancestors and the departed. In European-based pagan traditions, we usually focus on ancestors and the departed just during the dark times of the year. And yet there are a few traditions that will look upon them as a steady source of magic, guidance, and influence. And in other non-European cultures, this is actually much more common. Asia, Africa, and the Americas are full of examples of ancestor veneration in daily practice and during ritual. However, especially if your practices often take you between the worlds, you will often notice that your ancestors and your beloved dead are never far away. They're often there, invisible to the naked eye, watching you, blessing your actions, or sometimes summoning you from across the country for an overdue visit to the grave because they want to request their favorite dessert at Samhain. Or, other times, to find the book that they wrote while they were alive, that your mother mislaid, and that they really want you to read. Our bodies and the blood, bone, and spirit which comprise them have come from the generations of people who lived on this earth before us, who loved, who died, and left new generations to carry on their DNA after they were gone. So within us is literally the foundation of who was here before, which is why even if you may not get along with your closest family members, I know a lot of us are in situations where we're strained or we have difficult relationships with our immediate ancestors. Here's some good news for you. By the time you go back 10 generations, you are descended from 4,096 people. And if you go back just 3 more generations to the 13th generation, you have over 32,000 dead relatives that you can call upon. All of those thousands of people live on in us, and we can reach out to them if we need their help. So that is one way to work with ancestor magic if you want to do some past regression work. Right. Another common spiritual guide that people work with are the Ascended Masters and the angels. Ascended Masters usually are people who live lives of very deep spiritual significance, and then they have returned to Earth in order to teach others. One of the most famous of these, Kuan Yin, vowed not to go on until all people had the chance to reach nirvana, the state of bliss in Buddhism. And for this, she is honored and valued for her unending compassion and love for humanity. Because of their spiritual power that they accumulated over life and in their afterlife, Ascended Masters can guide people through their lifelong spiritual journeys and to help them see which roadblocks need to be cleared in order to reach a higher state of being. Angels are another type of spirit guide who often appear in a humanoid form, typically with wings. While they are closely associated with Christianity, they have been known to appear to people regardless of faith or background if they feel that they are needed. Archangels are the most powerful. They are often called upon for help, and very frequently there'll be a specific archangel for a specific role, such as a healer. Guardian angels are specific angels who are given a single person protect. Close equivalent would be, within the traditions where you have an animal who is your guardian and lifetime spirit guide and protector. Guardian angels might be another form of that because they work with one person over that person's life. And also you have what I call the freelance angels. These are angels who have found a mission in aiding humans, and if they see and are called upon to act in a certain situation, they might be able to give help. Candles, prayers, and offerings are often used to interact with these type of spirit guides. There are entire books written on the subjects if you want to learn more, and some have specific ritual forms which should be followed, while others are less strict. So again, if you are looking to work with Ascended Masters and Angels, I highly recommend that you do your research, you see who's calling to you, and you learn how best you can work with them. All right. Ways to interact with your spirit guides. There's a lot of ways to do this. If you belong to a tradition which has a specific method of reaching out and discovering a primary spirit guide, then those traditions often usually will have someone who works as a teacher, and you can go to them, reach out, see what they recommend doing. But not all of us have that option. In that case, simpler is better. No Facebook quizzes. Their algorithms are not the way to do this. It can be as simple as taking a few minutes in meditation each day, closing your eyes, and waiting to see who or what approaches you, and be willing to listen. When you have a few that you work with or see, talking to them is simple but incredibly effective. You can talk to them out loud, you can talk to them silently, ask them questions, befriend them, and see what they have to tell you. Vision Quest, this one, of course, again, it's very culturally specific, but if it is an option, it's definitely a very good place to start. There are other forms which are less culturally specific, very similar to a Vision Quest. Probably wouldn't be using that phrase to describe them, but any type of spiritual quest where you're done with preparation and intention to find and work with them will help them find you. Because remember, it's not just up to us, it's also up to the spirit guides themselves to decide when and if they're going to reach out to us. So if you have a feeling that they're trying to reach you, anything you can do here to open yourself up will help them get in contact with you. There are things you can do just working on your intuition, learning to watch for patterns and signs. One thing that often is true for me are dreams. If I start dreaming about a particular animal over and over again, that's usually a sign that that animal is trying to get a hold of me, and I need to go through some of these other methods to see what they're wanting to tell me. Journaling. This can take different forms. Free writing is one method that I've used with really good success. You sit down, you have the page open, you have your pencil in hand, and no matter how silly or weird or stupid it may seem, just write down everything that pops into your head. And just free write and let yourself be open to whatever messages they may have for you, and they can channel those messages through you. The trick is do not stop or think about what you're doing. Just keep going as long as it takes. Other people use dream journals. This can help you notice the patterns. Again, a pattern within the dreams can often be a sign of the spirit guides trying to reach out to you. And of course, divination. Tarot, osteomancy, runes, pretty much any form of divination, it can allow your spirit guides to send messages from the spirit world into a format that you can read, see, and understand. If you're not comfortable doing this for yourself, we have a lot of people within our community that you can get in contact with who can do readings. Or if you do readings yourself, maybe you and another reader can trade places, trade services, and then you can help each other out that way. Okay, I'm gonna stop the screen share here for a little bit, then I'll switch to the meditation here in a few minutes. But I want us to come back together. Okay. So that was the presentation part of tonight. I know a few of you guys brought some spirit animal companions. So I'm gonna introduce a few of mine, and then I'll open up the floor if anyone has any they wish to share or introduce to us. We can do so as well. This is Sleipnir. He's not one of mine, but he was in the presentation as one of Odin's. This is Maingan, the Minnesotan wolf. This is Midnight. Funny story about him. So remember how I was saying sometimes you start dreaming about a horse and it's a horse trying to send you a message? Well, for several nights in a row, I was dreaming of a rearing black horse, just this constant recurring dream. And then that Sunday at the UU Hollywood, Alba showed up with this rearing black horse and was like, I thought of you and thought you would like this. And I was like, oh, hi, Midnight the horse. Good to see you again. And it was
like, shut up.
Yeah, I'm like, okay. I'm getting the picture, Epona. You want me to work with you for a while. Point taken. This is another of the wolves. The tail here is broken. My wolf name, I have both a tree and a wolf name, is Akkad, which loosely translate as tailless, or the tailless wolf. And that wolf happened to be tailless too, so I thought it was fitting. And in terms of helpers and visitors, one visitor I often get when I'm taking walks in the woods is a little dragon I call Finny. And then this dragon turned up when I was going crocheting last Sunday, and he helped me to crochet an owl that looked like an owl. And for me, that is a feat. So he counts as a spirit guide too. So if anyone would like to share theirs, you can raise your hand, unmute yourself. And okay, Sita.
I have quite a few. This is a representation of my familiar. His name is JD. He's a Maneki Neko Yokai. Came to me recently and he's so sweet. Funny story, I thought he was malicious at first. We're like, what is this in my house? But we've become really close friends. And sometimes he inhabits my black cat sometimes to cuddle, which is nice. I have an ancestral, spirit guide, and my deities. That's it.
Very cool. Panda?
Yes, so those of you who know me know of my slight minuscule connection to my namesake here, Panda. Various ones, but this one in particular is not Pandacito, who some of you remember, but this one in particular, she just reminded me, was very interesting. This was, how should we say, this little guy right here was actually her gift that she left in another person's car, and that person gave it to me as a gift, so it ultimately found its way home. And so now it's like, she looks at it and goes, that looks familiar. I'm like, yes, it does. So he's on the Panda altar. And of course, the other one is dragons, right? So when being someone, as a dragon magician, should I say, it's the very interesting concept that they are not just your familiars or helpers, but they can also be your partners and things like that. So they work in both aspects. So very much dragons will surround you and come around in that particular situation, but they can also work in that different aspect. So absolutely. So he is flying and looking over people's shoulders kind of thing. So he has a place on the dragon altar, and the panda has stuff on the panda altar, which Jinx likes to sleep underneath. So that is all that I wrote, baby.
Carl and Elba?
Yes. Ever since I started working out on the back porch, doing a lot of my woodworking stuff out there, there's one of those curly-tailed lizards. He showed up when he was about this big. He's about 1.5 feet long now. And every time I'm working out there, he just comes out, posts up, and just stares at me. And when I do something wrong, and I know I'm messing up, he'll go down in his hole and just be gone for a while. I get back and doing something the right way. He comes back out and watches me again. I always think, it's grandfather, my grandpa, because he was a master woodworker and he's a master carpenter. And he used to do stuff like that all the time. Just watch him when you're doing the right thing. He's just there nodding. And when you screw up, he just goes, "Ugh," and then walks away. He used to do that all the time.
Yeah, we were sitting on the porch last night having a beer, and this big fat lizard just comes up and sits there and staring at Carl. And I'm like, there's a big fat lizard staring at you. And he goes, oh yeah, that's Buddy. He's just,
Yep, he just
Buddy.
hangs out there.
Yeah,
Yep.
and then Carl goes, I'm not doing anything right now, buddy. I'm just having a beer. And he goes, okay. And he goes back into his hole. It's like, wow,
Yep.
you got a pet lizard.
He's definitely made himself your familiar.
For sure.
That's cool.
Mine, of course, is the spider. And as you said, I did talk an hour about spiders just recently. There's a presentation on the YouTube channel or on moonpath.org of my presentation on spiders. This is Doris, and she sits on the couch, arm of the couch, right at my right shoulder. So when I'm crocheting, she's watching everything, making sure that I'm weaving my web properly.
Nice. Amethyst?
I had a familiar many, many years ago. I used to call him my son the cat because at the time I did know he was a familiar, but I didn't know how to explain that to other people. So I just called him my son the cat. And he was an extremely large cat, but sleek. He was an orange, very orange tabby. As a matter of fact, he would ride with me in my car and sit in my lap. And it was hard to tell where my hair ended and my cat began. So, and he would like meow at all the other cars going by. And he was unbelievable. People, everyone who ever met him were like amazed and astounded by him. He was, my husband says he was the best of cats and the worst of cats because he was so independent and so in charge of everything. And I think I now have a new familiar, a developing protege, so to speak, in my cat Ash. But I miss having that familiar on a regular daily basis, and so I'm looking forward. I'm hoping that Ash is going to step up and say, yeah, I'm taking charge here.
Yeah, because it's always up to them, isn't it?
It's always up to them. But with spirit animals, I find that for me, when I'm in distress or having to process through issues, so to speak, that's when I'll suddenly notice, and squirrels quite often are my come to. I was going to say go to, but no, they're kind of my come to animal. Squirrels and occasionally lizards. They'll show up, and what I find with those spirit animals is not so much that they guide me to anything, more like they distract me from, which gives me that moment to step back and look at things more clearly and resolve it that way. And so I find it really very interesting.
That does sound like something a squirrel would think to do.
Yeah, they like distraction. That's it.
Oh, well, I hope JD's enjoying the presentation, Sita. Okay. Anyone have anything or any questions maybe? Debbie?
There I am, I'm muted. I, I kind of don't know exactly why the dragonfly started to come after me, but he would or she would show up every time I went outside to the pool, and I often thought, why is it? It's like she just knew when I was going to be there, and she would stop by and do a low buzz over the pool and flit around like that, and sometimes come back a few times. And I was just often just thinking, well, maybe it was because I asked for a sign
Yeah,
about how am I gonna get out and do more exercise and whatever. And
yeah. Dragonflies are often messengers. They often, in my experience, dragonflies have often been messengers from the goddess, about being aware of the natural world.
yeah. So, and then a butterfly too that would come. So the butterfly and the dragonfly would fly together across and be this whole little show over the pool. And so
And
it got me into wanting to get out to the pool too.
well, there you go. That's probably what they're going for. And butterflies are often, as the story goes, the messengers for the dead.
Yeah.
They often.
Well, the weather got cooler, and then that's when I haven't seen her since.
Well, it is their winter. They'll probably be back in the summer. Yeah. And Sylvia, you had something you wanted to ask?
Yes, I want to share something, something I always think about that. Well, I really appreciate your presentation because I'm an animal. I'm very into animals, into wild animals too. In my country, it is completely different from here. There are lots of stranded animals, and we used to, all my kids and me, we used to have lots. I have had, for example, 12 cats and 17 dogs stranded, one sheep, turkeys. We had lots of animals all the time. Now I'm not having any because I live in a house that is not mine. I can't. But what I find is that I always have such a close relation with animals that there are always animals near me that come here, for example, birds that come to the window all the time, or birds or something special, but they come. They are always coming. But the thing is this, I always see myself as like, if I don't know why I think of hummingbirds. All my life I have thought that I have a close relation to hummingbirds, but no hummingbirds come. All kind of other animals come. What I find is that the relation is like there is a really close relation to animals. They come naturally and I go to them naturally, but no hummingbirds come. And I don't see hummingbirds, but I always have a tendency to feel the hummingbirds. And I don't know why this happens, or I don't know which is the meaning, because I've thought of this about 40 years. I have been thinking about this for 40 years, but there came other kind of birds, for example, that come to my window and they stay here and they come for food because I feed them. I feed every animal that comes near myself. And well, that is what I wanted to share, because there is always me wondering about hummingbirds. It's
Maybe
like strange.
Yeah, maybe it's trying to reach you on a spiritual level, and they're trying to get you to come to them maybe at the spiritual level versus at the regular level. I don't know. Something to explore, definitely.
Yes, I don't know, but I'm always wondering about that. It was just so, as we were talking about, you were talking about this, and I'm interested. This is something, a topic that I'm very interested in, you know. Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions, or we can go on to the meditation?
Just for Sylvie, you should take a trip to Butterfly World. You'll see lots of hummingbirds there, and maybe you could do some meditation in that park.
Oh, what is that, Alba? What is that?
Butterfly World. It's on Sample. Just
okay, I will look for it.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sarah has a cat coming in for the video. All right. If that's it for now, we can gather up again at the end of the meditation. I'm gonna go ahead and switch back to the screen share. Give me 1 second. Now going to go into our meditation, which is designed to give our guides the chance to visit with us and share whatever wisdom we may need. Some of you may have a guide or two that you work with regularly, and they may come, but stay open to whatever experiences come your way. Sometimes the unexpected happens instead. So everyone, take a deep breath and close your eyes. Breathe in and out. Again, breathe in and out. A third time, breathe in. Body relax. Picture yourself on a trail. Look around you. Are you in a forest? A beach? A mountain? Wherever you are, take a moment to study your surroundings. Listen to the sounds. Take in a deep breath, catch the smells, and study the path ahead of you. When you are ready, follow the path wherever it leads. The journey to meet with your spiritual guides begins with these steps. Now you come to a place where the path widens and ends. Stop here, and again, take a moment to study this place, to notice your surroundings. Do you see any animals, plants, trees, water? Take note of them. Breathe in. Notice how you fit into this landscape. Take a seat on the ground at the edge of the path. Feel the earth below you, and you can run your hands through the grass or the soil for a moment. As you do, you'll feel the life of the earth beneath you, between your fingers. Time now, take another breath and let yourself relax and steady your breathing. Steady yourself here where your path has led you. Now run your fingers in a circle on the ground around you, moving clockwise. As you move your fingers, will the circle into being around you. Feel how you are grounded at its center. Here, inside your circle, you will be safe, and your own intentions will be amplified. Now, call out in each direction. Say something like, I have come in peace to learn from those who have something to teach me. Repeat this as needed, phrasing the words as feels most natural to you, and let your intention flow with your words. See who comes. Anyone comes to you at this time, speak with them. Talk to them. Talk about anything you may have a question about, anything you want to know. Or if you have nothing in particular in mind, you can stay quiet and listen to them instead. Now it is almost time to go. If any have come, ask if there's anything else they wish to share with you. If none have come, It is all right. Those who are meant to guide you will come when you need them to be there. All this means is this was not the case tonight, but you can always come back. Now say your goodbyes and spin your hand counterclockwise around the circle that you have made, dismissing it back to the Mother Earth where it came. Get back to your feet and walk back down the path. Keep your eyes and your spirit open. See who may walk with you or who watches you from afar. Those who are your guides are always with you when you need them, whether for a short time or a long. And you can come to them in a place like this whenever you want. Eventually, you reach the beginning of the path where your journey started. Return now to your body. Feel your limbs, your lungs, your heartbeat. When you are ready, open your eyes and come back to the here and now. So, I hope you have all enjoyed learning about spirit and animal guides, and thank you for joining me tonight.